Coming up next, I'm going to be playing as authors on Hunger Games Simulator.
As the tributes stand on their podiums, the horn sounds. Maurice Sendak runs away from the cornucopia. Laura Numroff and William Shakespeare fight for a bag. William Shakespeare gives up and retreats. Herman Melville runs away from the cornucopia. Roald Dahl grabs a shield leaning on the cornucopia. Tommy DePaula grabs a shield leaning on the cornucopia. David Kirk runs away from the cornucopia. Jeff Kinney, Edgar Allan Poe, J.K. Rowling, and Mercer Mayer share everything they gathered before running. Mark Brown runs away with a lighter and some rope. Norman Bridwell runs away from the cornucopia. Mark Twain sets William Faulkner on fire with a Molotov. F. Scott Fitzgerald runs into the cornucopia and hides. Bill Peet breaks James Marshall's nose for a basket of bread. John Steinbeck, P.D. Eastman, and Ernest Hemingway work together to get as many supplies as possible. Dr. Seuss runs away from the cornucopia. Agatha Christie runs away from the cornucopia. Harry Allard runs away from the cornucopia. Maurice Sendak receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. James Marshall injures himself. William Shakespeare searches for a water source. David Kirk begs for Jeff Kinney to kill him. He refuses, keeping David Kirk alive. Ernest Hemingway runs away from Dr. Seuss. John Steinbeck makes a slingshot. Laura Numroff diverts P.D. Eastman's attention and runs away. Roald Dahl searches for firewood. Edgar Allan Poe constructs a shack. Norman Bridwell, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Agatha Christie, and Mercer Mayer hunt for other tributes. Tommy DePaula dies trying to escape the arena. Mark Twain sprains his ankle while running away from Harry Allard. Bill Peet constructs a shack. J.K. Rowling and Herman Melville split up to search for resources. Mark Brown searches for firewood. David Kirk and Maurice Sendak sleep in shifts. Mark Brown tends to F. Scott Fitzgerald's wounds. John Steinbeck and Laura Numroff hold hands. Harry Allard quietly hums. P.D. Eastman questions his sanity. J.K. Rowling thinks about home. James Marshall passes out from exhaustion. Agatha Christie receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Edgar Allan Poe and Mark Twain huddle for warmth. Mercer Mayer sees a fire, but stays hidden. Roald Dahl defeats William Shakespeare in a fight, but spares his life. Herman Melville and Norman Bridwell hold hands. Bill Peet convinces Dr. Seuss to snuggle with him. Ernest Hemingway and Jeff Kinney huddle for warmth. J.K. Rowling and Roald Dahl hunt for other tributes. John Steinbeck, Laura Numroff, Norman Bridwell, and Mark Brown form a suicide pact, killing themselves. Edgar Allan Poe attempts to climb a tree, but falls to his death. F. Scott Fitzgerald accidentally detonates a landmine while trying to arm it. Jeff Kinney sees smoke rising in the distance, but decides not to investigate. Ernest Hemingway, Mark Twain, Harry Allard, Herman Melville, and William Shakespeare hunt for other tributes. Agatha Christie sees smoke rising in the distance, but decides not to investigate. Maurice Sendak, David Kirk, Mercer Mayer, and Dr. Seuss raid James Marshall's camp while he is hunting. P.D. Eastman kills Bill Peet with a sickle. James Marshall and Ernest Hemingway talk about the tributes still alive. Mercer Mayer convinces Dr. Seuss to snuggle with him. William Shakespeare dies trying to escape the arena. Herman Melville receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Jeff Kinney bashes Roald Dahl's head against a rock several times. David Kirk convinces Mark Twain to snuggle with him. Agatha Christie, P.D. Eastman, and J.K. Rowling cheerfully sing songs together. Harry Allard tries to sing himself to sleep. Maurice Sendak tries to treat his infection. Harry Allard searches for a water source. David Kirk attacks Maurice Sendak, but he manages to escape. J.K. Rowling sprains her ankle while running away from Mark Twain. Agatha Christie accidentally detonates a landmine while trying to arm it. Herman Melville tends to Mercer Mayer's wounds. P.D. Eastman questions his sanity. Jeff Kinney receives clean water from an unknown sponsor. Dr. Seuss practices his archery. Ernest Hemingway kills James Marshall with a hatchet. A cloud of poisonous smoke starts to fill the arena. Mark Twain survives. Jeff Kinney survives. Herman Melville survives. Mercer Mayer survives. Maurice Sendak survives. Harry Allard survives. Ernest Hemingway and David Kirk decide to run into the cloud together. Dr. Seuss survives. J.K. Rowling and P.D. Eastman agree to die in the cloud together, but J.K. Rowling pushes P.D. Eastman in without warning. Maurice Sendak cooks his food before putting his fire out. Jeff Kinney, Dr. Seuss, J.K. Rowling, Mark Twain, and Mercer Mayer sleep in shifts. Harry Allard destroys Herman Melville's supplies while he is asleep. The cornucopia is replenished with food, supplies, weapons, and memoirs from the tribute's families. Jeff Kinney decides not to go to the feast. J.K. Rowling dies from an infection. Mercer Mayer decides not to go to the feast. Dr. Seuss decides not to go to the feast. Herman Melville decides not to go to the feast. Harry Allard severely slices Maurice Sendak with a sword. Mark Twain bleeds out due to untreated injuries.
Uh-oh.
Harry Allard tries to sleep through the entire day. Dr. Seuss runs away from Mercer Mayer. Herman Melville collects fruit from a tree. Jeff Kinney practices his archery. Herman Melville receives medical supplies from an unknown sponsor. Harry Allard attempts to start a fire, but is unsuccessful. Dr. Seuss and Mercer Mayer huddle for warmth. Jeff Kinney is awoken by nightmares. Harry Allard receives medical supplies from an unknown sponsor. Mercer Mayer and Herman Melville split up to search for resources. Jeff Kinney stalks Dr. Seuss. Harry Allard severely injures Mercer Mayer and leaves him to die. Jeff Kinney receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Dr. Seuss quietly hums. Herman Melville cries himself to sleep. Dr. Seuss picks flowers. Herman Melville explores the arena. Jeff Kinney begs for Harry Allard to kill him. He refuses, keeping Jeff Kinney alive. Jeff Kinney climbs a tree to rest. Dr. Seuss is awoken by nightmares. Herman Melville sees a fire, but stays hidden. Harry Allard is awoken by nightmares. Herman Melville picks flowers. Dr. Seuss goes hunting. Jeff Kinney stalks Harry Allard. Harry Allard receives clean water from an unknown sponsor. Herman Melville loses sight of where he is. Jeff Kinney climbs a tree to rest. Dr. Seuss receives medical supplies from an unknown sponsor. Herman Melville receives fresh food from an unknown sponsor. Jeff Kinney diverts Dr. Seuss's attention and runs away. Harry Allard receives medical supplies from an unknown sponsor. Jeff Kinney convinces Dr. Seuss to snuggle with him. Herman Melville starts a fire. Harry Allard receives an explosive from an unknown sponsor. Dr. Seuss receives a hatchet from an unknown sponsor. Harry Allard convinces Jeff Kinney to not kill him, only to kill him instead. Herman Melville dies from hypothermia.
My goodness.
Harry Allard stabs Dr. Seuss with a tree branch. The winner is Harry Allard from District 9.
The winner of this simulator is the author of the Miss Nelson books. Miss Nelson is missing, Miss Nelson is back, and Miss Nelson has a field day. Okay. See you for the next simulation, everyone.